There's nothing quite like the thrill of attempting to crack the code of an unsolved crime. That's why popular shows like Law and Order and Unsolved Mysteries exist, after all. But when it comes to crime stories, the truth is the best place to start, which is why crime shows and movies based on the cold hard facts are always the most fascinating to watch. Today we are going to talk about top 10 true crime documentaries on UK Netflix. So before starting to this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more upcoming videos. Let's move forward. Number 10, The Confession Killer. The Confession Killer is a 2019 American true crime documentary miniseries directed by Robert Kenner and Taki Oldham. The plot revolves around the 1983 case of Henry Lee Lucas, who confessed to over 200 murders in the United States. The Confession Killer is the infamous story of Henry Lee Lucas, who was once called America's most prolific serial killer. During the early 80s, he confessed to hundreds of murders, bringing closure to unsolved cases and grieving families. However, the show raises the question of whether Lucas, who confessed to killing 600 women over the course of 8 years, only to retract his statements after the fact, was a serial killer or a serial liar. That's because, despite there being no direct evidence linking Lucas to the crime scenes and the DNA contradictions, he stunned authorities with his ability to sketch victims' portraits while citing brutal details of each attack. However, viewers will learn in the documentary that his confessions to over 600 murders were likely based on countless lies, which begs the question, who did commit the crimes? Number 9, The Ripper. The Ripper, directed by Jesse Vile and Eleanor Wood, is a 4-episode docuseries about how a serial killer called the Yorkshire Ripper terrorized the county of York, in northern England, during the latter half of the 1970s. Between 1975 and 1980, Peter Sutcliffe murdered 13 women in and around the city of Leeds, and assaulted scores of others. But it took the police in Yorkshire years to capture him, due to a combination of his elusiveness, sexist assumptions about his victims by law enforcement, and a general feel that the entire department was disorganized. The 4-part miniseries recounts the events and investigation surrounding the murders of 13 women that took place in West Yorkshire and Manchester between 1975 and 1980 by the serial killer Peter Sutcliffe. Number 8, The Keepers. The Keepers is a 7-episode American documentary web series that explores the unsolved murder of nun Catherine Cesnik in 1969. The Keepers tells the story of Sister Catherine Cesnik, a 26-year-old nun living in Baltimore who was abducted and murdered back in the 1960s. The case was never solved, but was linked to a horrific history of sexual abuse by a chaplain called Father Joseph Maskell. Ryan White's docuseries blows the lid off a Catholic scandal from the 60s, one that is still playing out. This true cold case crime story has not been solved, and is still unfolding with new developments. Number 7, The Trials of Gabriel Fernandez. The Trials of Gabriel Fernandez is a 6-part crime documentary that premiered on Netflix in 2020. Directed by Brian Knappenberger, the documentary details the murder of Gabriel Fernandez and subsequent responses by the media and local government. Gabriel Fernandez was an 8-year-old boy from Palmdale, California who was abused and tortured over a period of months that ultimately ended in his fatal beating on May 22, 2013, which led to his death 2 days later. His mother, Pearl Fernandez, and her boyfriend, Isauro Aguirre, were both charged and convicted of first-degree murder with special circumstances of torture. Pearl Fernandez was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, and Isauro Aguirre was sentenced to death. Number 6, The Disappearance of Madeleine McCann. The Disappearance of Madeleine McCann depicts the disappearance of 3-year-old Madeleine McCann, who vanished from an Algarve holiday apartment at the seaside resort of Praia da Luz in Portugal, in May 2007 as her parents enjoyed a meal with friends 100 yards away. The parents checked on the children throughout the evening, until Kate discovered she was missing at 2200. Over the following weeks, particularly after misinterpreting a British DNA analysis, the Portuguese police came to believe that Madeleine had died in an accident in the apartment and that her parents had covered it up. The McCanns were given suspect status in September 2007, which was lifted when Portugal's Attorney General archived the case in July 2008 for lack of evidence. Number 5. Jeffrey Epstein Filthy Rich. Jeffrey Epstein, Filthy Rich is an American web documentary television miniseries about convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The miniseries is based on the 2016 book of the same name by James Patterson, and co-written by John Connolly and Tim Malloy. This true crime documentary Filthy Rich dives into the laundry list of allegations against Epstein, who killed himself in a Manhattan jail cell last year, with testimony from women who claimed to have been victimized by him and his high-powered associates while they were underage. Epstein was accused of having a sexual abuse pyramid scheme that recruited vulnerable teenage girls from local middle schools and high schools to come to his mansion in Palm Beach, Florida, under the guise of giving him massages, but in fact so he could sexually assault them. His alleged recruitment went beyond that city, however. Accusers from all over the globe share their allegations on the record during the 4-part documentary series, which is directed by Lisa Bryant. Filthy Rich was released on May 27, 2020 on Netflix. Number 4. Conversation with a Killer: The Ted Bundy Tapes. The Ted Bundy Tapes is an American documentary that premiered on Netflix on January 24, 2019, the 30th anniversary of Bundy's execution. The Bundy Tapes is exactly what the title implies. It's a fresh retelling of the story of Ted Bundy and his crimes, with the added twist of being, at times, told from his own perspective through never-heard-before tapes recorded before his death in January 1989. There is nothing new to be gleaned from the series. Conversations with a Killer offers an unprecedented peek into Bundy's mind, as it draws from roughly 100 hours of taped interviews that journalists Stephen Michaud and Hugh Ainsworth conducted with Bundy while he was on death row. Number 3. American Murder: The Family Next Door. This documentary focuses on the 2018 disappearance of Shannon Watts and her 2 young daughters. Told via archival footage, the true crime documentary unfurls through home videos, social media posts, police body cam recordings, news reports, and private text messages. The Family Next Door has once again brought public attention to the murder of Shannon Watts, who was pregnant with her 3rd child, along with her 2 daughters, Bella, aged 4, and Celeste, aged 3. The case gained national awareness in the United States after the family went missing from their Colorado home in 2018 without a trace. Shannon's husband, Chris Watts, father to the 3 children, was left seemingly bewildered by their disappearance and made public appeals for them to come home safely. It later came to light that Chris, who had been having an affair with new girlfriend Nicole Kessinger, had killed his wife and children. Number 2. Abducted in Plain Sight. Abducted in Plain Sight is a 91-minute documentary which tells the shocking story of Jan Broberg and what happened to her family. In 1974, 12-year-old Jan Broberg is abducted from a small church-going community in Idaho by a trusted neighbor and close family friend, Robert B. Berchtold. Jan was brainwashed by Bob and was led to believe that she had been taken away by aliens for a special purpose. She was also brainwashed into believing that to complete her special mission, she would have to have a child with B. It was not until age 16, Jan realized that everything she had been told was a lie and that she was a victim of grooming and sexual assault at the hands of B. The documentary looks into how the kidnapping took place and the complicated events that followed involving her parents and their relationships with B. Number 1. The Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel. Eliza was a 21-year-old Canadian student who disappeared in 2013 at the Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles while she was traveling across the U.S. A video of Eliza, filmed in a hotel elevator before she vanished, went viral when it was released by Los Angeles police during their investigation. Her case became an obsession for thousands of people online, trying to figure where she could have gone. Everything was greatly amplified by an elevator security video that would be the last footage of Lam alive. In it, she appears to be acting very unusually, pushing all of the buttons, making wild hand movements, and possibly talking to someone in the hall outside the elevator, which, inexplicably, doesn't close. Her body was found in the hotel's water tank almost 3 weeks later. Have you ever heard about these true crime documentaries before? Let us know in the comment section below. And make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more upcoming videos.